Hi, everyone. This is Patrick Corcoran from Luxoft. It's been a while since we had our last conversation where we discussed conformance testing and the value proposition behind some of Luxoft's work in the test and measurement world. We're back on the podcast streak, and we're excited to talk about a topic today that has influence on both consumers and businesses. This is a B2B and a B2C concern just by virtue of the impact that the technology and some of the individuals behind the technology are bringing into our daily lives really at a global level. So today I'm joined by two of my astute colleagues, Vlad Strain and Michael Adams, two professionals in the software assurance and information security world. Let me just quickly introduce those guys. Vlad, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Patrick. I do different things in security consulting starting 2007, I guess. And I went through the security audit, penetration testing, IT audit in pure COVID style sense. And now I'm focused more on application security and some broader security engagements for lots of clients.
Great. Thanks, Vlad. Michael?
Hi, thanks, Patrick. So my name's Michael Adams. I've been in the information security business for about 15 years. I've worked with large enterprises like Hewlett-Packard with large customers all the way down to startups in the application security arena. And the one thing that I would say about my background is, and the things that I've learned in working in large, medium, and small companies, is that the problems are the same at every level, which is maybe surprising to some people, but the problems that a small startup has are the exact same problems that the largest enterprise in the world has. Thanks, Patrick.
Got it. Well, great to have you both here, Vlad and Michael. Both veterans of the Luxoft information security practice here. So, guys, I want to take this at a high level to start because I think people are generally aware of various security concerns, that they have to deal with on a daily basis. I mean, I think people have more passwords now that they have ever had in their life for different things to access, and yet, they're still worried about their personal data, and I think organizations are still worried about the threat and what we've seen as execution of some of the most damaging work to their enterprises in terms of security, whether that be company data or personal data. So why don't we air this out a little bit and start with a topic around what's really happening in quote this sort of application security, information security world. I mean, if you guys can look back at 2015, but I think more importantly, look at 2016. What are you seeing as probably the most important issues here that enterprises, and I would assume, guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's really industry agnostic, have to deal with moving forward. So, Vlad, let me throw this one over to you, and we'll start with your thoughts on it.
Thank you, Patrick. Basically, we observe a lot of changes in the threat landscape as the time passes. So what we can see in 2015 is the new category of vendors starting to fail badly in implementing basic security mechanisms into their products. And unfortunately, this time, these are security vendors. So it has started with the basic consumer software vendors back in the 90s. It went through the enterprise-grade business enablement software products, and now the next in queue are security vendors. So this is what actually bothers me a lot, and in my opinion, is really sad, because the security people who are starting different kinds of software startups are not experts in secure software development. Development, after all, so this combination of factors leads us to the examples like FireEye demonstrated quite recently, and Kaspersky had a bug of the year, as we call it, as well as Cisco and its security products is showing a very low level of due diligence in regard of software security. So this may sound as a paradox, but in fact, more and more security vendors are acting as an ally to the customer's network through the vulnerabilities found in their products.
Interesting. So we have sort of this spike in vendorship, if you will, but ultimately what we're seeing is sort of a subpar level of quality. You know, Michael, what are your take? What's your take on that?
Well, I completely agree with what Vlad said. I mean, you've got so many new security vendors, cybersecurity vendors, as they like to call themselves, flooding the market. And yet you take one, like Vlad just mentioned, FireEye, who just yesterday revealed that a single email sent into their system was discovered by the Google's Project Zero that could take down the whole system, your whole customer system, through remote code execution. So that's one aspect of what's going on, is too many people in the market, and all these solutions that are coming out really only solve maybe one or two problems or cause more problems, as Vlad said. The other thing that I see that this is, looking back on the year, there's two major things that have happened that I've seen that are extremely significant, and that is cyber, for lack of a better word, espionage is occurring now in a huge way. Country on country, state actor on state actor, this has become almost a norm, where in the past it was an anomaly. Second of all, of course, everybody's heard about all these big hacks and, you know, Target and all the rest of them. But, you know, very recently, it was just last month, there was the information of 6 million children stolen from a toy company called VTech. I mean, kids, their faces, their names, their ages, you know, et cetera. And that's horrible. That's just absolutely horrible thing to look at. So that's looking back. Looking forward, I think that what's going to influence us most in 2016 is, frankly, not only the things that have happened and people's hyper-awareness of what's going on in the market, but it's also new regulations that are happening around the globe. Some of them have global impact. All of them have impact across the industry. And I'll just give you a couple of examples, because there are several. The first of all is the Safe Harbor Act, which was struck down in court last year. And the Safe Harbor Act is about protecting personal information, as you mentioned. It's transferred between the European Union and Europe and the United States. Another one is there's a brand new set of European Union cybersecurity regulations coming. There's a new set of cybersecurity regulations and laws coming in the United States. There's investigatory powers bill coming in the United Kingdom. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on of things that companies have to comply with. And if they don't, some of these that are already in effect, if they don't comply with them, there's huge fines that come with them. And on top of that, those fines are indicators that they have people's personally identifiable information exposed. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we're going to see in 2016 is how to deal with all these regulations and focus on the main goal, which is protecting data.
And I think that's a good lead-in, Michael, to my next question, you know, which is it seems like we are in reactive mode over and over again to various security threats. And I think from a Luxoft perspective, right, it's our job as an information security practice to really be proactive and preventive these types of incidents, you know, with our clients. And I don't really see that happening. And so can you guys, you know, talk about, Vlad, that the difference really between reactive and preventive work within this industry, and ultimately, you know, how is Luxoft, you know, playing in this role of preventive information security vendor?
This actually is a really nice and fresh idea in the industry, Patrick. So as we can summarize our previous experience with more and more experience collected during these years, we can we can suggest that all the troubles, all the problems in the industry are basically caused by two major illusions or flaws in the way we think and perceive the things around us. So first of all, this is this reactive approach to external stimuli, like for example, compliance regulations or auditors identifying different issues in governance procedures or technologies applied or something like that. And the second is thinking by analogy, not digging deep into the root cause analysis of actual problems that we have. So the first one, the reactive approach in regard of security, is prevalent because this is how the security is basically driven throughout different industries. So these are the only reason for implementing different security practices normally is just reacting to compliance requirements coming from outside of the organization. So no one goes through any IT risk exercise in order to identify the actual threats that exist and may harm the organization, and then through different assessment steps in order to identify to what extent these threats can harm us, and then based on this prospective negative impact of incidents happening to choose from existing solutions on the market what to apply and where in order to either lessen the probability of such incidents happening or limit their impact and the exposure of sensitive data, for example, should a breach happen. And the second one, thinking by analogy, is basically just applying different, as they are called, best practices in the industry to different problems, just hoping that works for someone else, and that's why that's the base course of actions to take in order to deal with the problem. So, or even worse, applying some well-marketed technology or a product, and in this way just throwing money at the problem and hoping that it will go away. So what we are doing in this regard is each time we have a client that demonstrates the signs of these two, we are starting from the very beginning. So the general theme of what we are trying to teach our customers to do is going back to the basics and thinking critically about everything what's happening around them. So, for example, Michael knows this example. Just lately, we had a customer who applied the top-notch, state-of-the-art security solution and failed in the way just because they reacted to an external auditor's issue in a literal way, right? So someone came from the outside and identified some flaw, some vulnerability, and described it to them. But instead of digging deeper in what's happening, right, having more information as someone from the outside, the customer just literally reacted to what was written in the report, and this lack of analysis led to significant delay in the project, in the implementation of the solution itself, and the outcome was unexpected. So in the end, they did not resolve, they neither resolved an issue nor actually completed the project within the initially assigned scope. So what we have advised them to do is go back, analyze what's actually happening, identify what is stored where and how you can protect it with minimum amount of resources applied, and after that maybe increase your capacity in applying different pricey technology to the problem. But just after you understand what you are doing and after you have performed some very basic steps, maybe even free of charge or at operational cost of involved personnel.
I would add to that kind of where we'd like to get after we've successfully accomplished that phase with the customer is still a fundamental that has nothing to do with hyper-complex technology, which is it's pretty much documented fairly well that over 70% of the successful, largest cyber attacks have started with social engineering. And yet, less than 10% of companies train their employees not only in social engineering, but in general, what we call basic cyber hygiene habits, like not clicking suspicious links and things like that. Things that could help them avoid becoming embroiled in a situation that is completely unavoidable just by doing the basics. Training, understanding where the attacks come from, understanding the basics without a complex technology, just with training and teaching and learning and helping people understand how these things happen. I mean, when you see the front page of the news and, you see that whoever, XYZ giant global corporation got hacked, you never hear that the reason they got hacked is because somebody social engineered a password, or even a government. It was the same thing. One of the largest espionage attacks that I mentioned started with social engineering of a password and turned into the largest successful and most successful cyber espionage attack ever that's still new things are being discovered that were stolen in that attack. So it's like Vlad said, it's the basics, and that's what we're focused on. And we've learned that. Vlad and I and the rest of the team have learned that through our years of experience, that it's not some flashy technology that's the answer. If you're not starting at the basics, you're not going to be successful in defending your enterprise and yourselves and your brand and the information that you're guarding against attackers.
So, guys, why don't we bring this back together to a very practical level, which is put yourself in the shoes of a CISO or a CIO, industry agnostic, and talk about what you need from your vendor that's helping you with the information security, and where you're struggling. And ultimately, what is it that Luxoft can bring to the picture to really work with these enterprises on these both fundamental security understanding issues, but also the complex technology side?
Well, I would say, and then I'll let Vlad give his opinion, that frankly, the education has to start at the executive level. Cyber attacks have become so severe that, for example, one global company that I worked with, the CEO of the company, it's one of the largest, probably Fortune 10 company, literally had a weekly meeting on cybersecurity. So the education has to start at the C-level on not becoming enamored with technologies and not assuming that a technology is an answer to preventing a huge cyber attack. So that's where we need to, be educating people through any and every, methodology that we can. And I'm hearing that more and more in the industry, and seeing it more and more, not just on our side, on the vendor side. I'm hearing it more from customers. I'm seeing it more in the tech press, that the technology's overblown, that if people don't do the basics, that they'll never get there. But that education has to start at the C-level.
What we observe in general on the market when talking to the clients is that currently their attitude towards security problems is narrowed down to one simple question: where are my vulnerabilities, right? And in this way, they are trying to, again, reactively approach a problem, identify what are the ways they can be attacked, and then get rid of these vulnerabilities. But unfortunately, it's economically practical. So it's better, as Michael says, to take another way and educate your staff, educate your people to avoid the situations when vulnerabilities actually arise and appear in different places, either infrastructure or software or organizational processes or security awareness of personnel and so on.
So, guys, I appreciate the time you've spent with us today, and I think this is a very informative discussion. So let me throw out there one more question that I think is really relevant to buyers of technology and to some extent even consumers. How would you sum this up, right? We're thinking about 2016. It's clearly a large agenda that we've explored, one that's certainly complex to some, but I think the point that you made, Michael, is about fundamentals is important as well. So how do you sum this up? 2016, Vlad, tell me what it's going to be like and what you're seeing.
Basically, I guess it's going to be worse in the number of incidents happening, but along the way, we have taught ourselves to react better to the incidents and to limit the exposure of each of them. So I think that incidents will happen. We will be well prepared and we will react accordingly. And in order to lessen the frequency of the incidents occurring, we will just apply methodologically proven approaches in order to create less vulnerable code and less vulnerable systems.
So, Patrick, I would just add that going back to the client that Vlad just referred to, this is a client that's under a lot of regulations, had been audited and fined already and was facing future fines. And we went into that client and applied the methodologies that we've been discussing today, and that client is now successfully moving out from under those risks that were identified by the audit and moving into a place where they will no longer be dealing with worrying about an audit or facing more fines by applying the fundamentals, not by bringing in some magic whiz-bang technology, but exactly what we spoke about today. So we've proven that this is a successful methodology. Thanks a lot, Patrick. I really appreciate your time.
Great. Well, this has been an outstanding discussion, gentlemen. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I think, ultimately the insight and discussion in the information security world, cybersecurity, application security, all the nomenclature we've piled onto this, ultimately comes back to basics. And I think we've demonstrated that point here throughout this discussion, why that's so important. Tied together with executive education, there's a lot that we can contribute as an IT services company, to these problems. And I look forward to continuing the dialogue along these lines, but also our listeners, please be on the lookout for more of our podcasts around very hot areas. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at pcorcoran@luxoft.com, and I will transfer any questions you may have over to our team. But again, I hope this was useful, and we look forward to our next conversation. This is Pat Corcoran, and that's the way it is.